So with this new graph selected, which I believe is this one, nope. Sorry about that one. It's this one. So, save what you're doing so you don't get lost here. And you've done a lot of work up to this point, so save often, not like me. I'm going to right click this and go save as. And right on my desktop, we're going to call this the texturizer. And I'm going to hit F2 on this one, and we're going to call this the FPS female texture thing. So now that I've done that, I can actually use this graph to start texturing other objects. So how do I do that? One thing I need to do is replace all of these color information nodes like this with custom input nodes. And the reason I'm going to do that is this is going to allow an end user to go ahead and plug in a new object, all new baked maps, and go ahead and use this graph to texture their other objects. How cool is that? So let's go ahead and grab all these here. And if you want to tidy these up, I think there's a node for that. It's a mesh data combiner, so you can actually drag this out, and this just keeps things a little bit more organized. So you can tell it, I want to wrangle in my ambient occlusion, my curvature, my position, my normal map, my RGB position, which is what we want, color ID, world space, normal. So if I open this thing up with 1, I can take my ambient occlusion and plug that in. I can take my curvature and plug that in. I can take my position map RGB, my world space normal, and my color ID map, which is this thing right here, and I can go ahead and plug that in, and then my normal map as well if I want to. So now all of these maps now run through this thing. So if you want one nice and tidy place to put this thing, you can certainly do that. I don't really need my material ID going in there, but I can now use this one to go, okay, so everywhere where my curvature map is going, I can use this curvature map to be plugged into it. So I can go curvature map, go, oops, lost it. So select my curvature map, and then curvature map, go here, and then curvature map, go here. And it doesn't really update or do anything because I'm just plugging the same maps in. I'm just kind of organizing these things out. But instead of doing that, I'm actually going to delete this node because, this thing it's not that bad. But just be aware that's available to you. So anyways, I've got this texturizer saved, everything's plugged in. So let's go ahead and make this a custom node. So I'm going to click my space bar, and I'm going to go to a input color, and I'm going to hit space bar again, and we're going to do an input grayscale. So now what we can do with these two is tell the end user I need a color input for this material ID. So we're going to double click this, and the identifier we'll call mat ID, and for the end user we'll call it material ID. And everywhere where this material ID is plugged in, we want to have the end user plug in their material ID. So I'm actually going to save this one as texturizer custom. So I can always go back to my original if I need to. So I'm going to click on this material ID and go ahead and just plug these in here. And it's going to kill what we've been working on, but that's okay because we don't really need these things anymore anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this thing, and our material ID from the end user is going to be plugged into those areas. The materials we're going to leave alone for now. So that's our color ID, and now we've got a grayscale one. Here's our grayscale curvature map. So I'm going to double click this one, and we're going to call this curvature, label it. And everywhere this curvature map is going, I'm going to plug this thing in. So here, and just to play it safe, I'm going to go into one mode, and we're going to go curvature map, highlight for me your paths, 1 and 2, and this one isn't being used anymore. I can go ahead and delete it. And this is now our input user curvature map. Now I've got 3 more color, normal map, and these two, and then one more ambient occlusion, which is grayscale. So I'm actually going to take this grayscale, copy, paste, drop this over here where my ambient occlusion is, and I'm going to double click this one. We're going to call this AO, ambient occlusion, and everywhere this AO map is going, I'm going to plug this thing in. So highlight for me, and replace, and replace, and replace, And one more. Replace. So there's my AO map. Don't need that anymore. And my color one, I'm going to control copy, control paste, control C, control V. And we'll zoom in here. Now this one isn't being plugged into anything. So you know what? I'm going to skip you. And I'm going to go straight down to here. This is my world space normals. So I'm going to double click this one, call this one world space, label it. Cool. And I'm going to highlight this one, and it's just going up to that one place up here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in, delete you. So now I think we're all set. And our object doesn't look that great, but that's okay because this is now a custom graph. Oh wait, one more. Copy, control paste. Let's get rid of our normal map. So we're going to take this thing, double click it. This is normal. And the label is normal map. Replace this, delete this, and we are good to go. Yay. So texturizer custom is ready to go. How does it work? Let's go ahead and let's go this unsafe package. I'm going to close this one. That's going to mess me up. Oops, no, I don't want to save it. So these are my materials we've been playing with, and then we got our texture custom. So I'm going to go to File, New Substance, click OK, and here's just a new package here. I'm going to go ahead and close these down too. Don't need them, don't need them, and don't need them. So here's our texturizer custom map. I'm going to go ahead and save this one because it has a little asterisk. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to drag it into my new graph that I just created. If we zoom in on this thing, what we have is a bunch of custom input parameters here and some output parameters. So if I double click this one and right click it actually and go to open reference, what that's going to do is open the FPS female texture thing that I'm working on, and here's the test graph. So with this one, I'm going to go into 3 mode, and you're going to see we have a material and then an output. So I'm going to go back into here. And of course, I forgot for my ambient occlusion to say, first of all, you're in a material group. And your label is... Now I do have a usage, which is good. And we'll go ahead and make this identifier better than that. Okay, so here's our ambient occlusion map. We can go ahead and save this graph, go back to our new graph. And this thing might not update, so I'm going to delete it and just drag it in again. Now we're all nice and tidy in one, and I'm going to do in this one, add another output for my ambient occlusion, give it a usage, not mask, there we go. And now when I drag this out, they should all plug in perfectly fine. Now I did do something weird on that ambient occlusion. Let me double check that. So ambient occlusion is black and white, female FPS texturing, it is black and white, it is grayscale. Oh, this is RGB. I think it's still okay though. That was interesting. It still worked. Okay, so everything's plugged in, but it's not doing anything because we haven't given it any maps. So for this one, what I'm going to do is I don't want to texture a helmet again. I'm going to go ahead and texture another piece.